Today I'm showing you guys how to use Adobe Dimension CC to make amazing scenes. A lot of you really wanted this video, so here it is. And I figured since we're all in quarantine, I'm just gonna keep pumping out these videos so you guys have something to watch so you guys can stay busy. But anyway, everything that we're gonna be using today as far as resources will be linked in the description below, so you guys can go ahead and download those right now and follow along in this video. And obviously you will need Adobe Dimension CC to follow along as well. Let's get it. Once you open up Adobe Dimension, you are going to see a very familiar format here. You're going to see a Create New button, just like in Illustrator and Photoshop. So what we're going to do is hit that Create New button, and we're just going to create a new artboard, if you will, a new 3D space. As soon as you open up this new document, you will see Properties on the right-hand side, and under Properties, I just changed it to 248 by 248 because that is the size I use for Instagram. And a lot of the times when I make Adobe Dimension projects, I share them on Instagram. So that is the reason for that, but you can change that to whatever you want. It's completely up to you. And there's another thing that's really important that you guys need to really understand how to use, which is scenes. Under scenes, we have two main layers. We have environment and camera. These we're going to be using a lot. So the first thing I would like to do is go to environment. And once we click on environment, we're going to see a background layer. This is where we can click on the background color and actually switch it from color to image. Now, when we go to image, we're going to be able to upload our own image, and that's exactly what we want to do today. So I found an image of this desert. Let me find it real quick. We're just going to click on this desert. As soon as you add your image, it will crop it and fit it to the 248 by 248, which is what we set at the beginning under properties. So now we have our image and we are good to go. And under size right here, you can actually scale it to fit original size, and you can adjust the size right here and the opacity. We're not going to mess with any of that today. We're off to a really good start. So the next thing we're going to need is our assets. We need to import those. So let's go ahead and get those right now. I'm going to very quickly go over how to download these files correctly because there are a few different formats that you will see, and the one that you're gonna pay attention to is OBJ, and that stands for object. Okay, and when you download that, that's the one you're gonna import into Adobe Dimension. So you're going to click download down here, and you want to go to original OBJ file, and that is the one you're going to download. It's going to give you a zip file. You just have to unzip that. There's a few different ways we can upload our OBJ file once downloaded. We can either click the OBJ file and just download it, like click and drag it into Adobe Dimension, or we can go file and then we can go import 3D model. What I like to do is I just like to drag it in, though it's so much easier. So I'm just going to click and drag it in. So we have the lighthouse now. We can move it up and down, side to side. It's in a 3D space, right? So keep that in mind. Now there's three different axes that you need to pay attention to. We have our Y axis on the top, and we have our X axis on the right, and we also have our Z axis or Z axis on the left, which is the blue handle. So blue is Z, this magenta color is X, and the green color is Y. Now Y is going to move it up, X is going to move it to the right, and then Z is going to move it to the left, kind of thing. So that's the basics, and this will take some time to get used to. Trust me, it took me a little bit to get used to. The first thing I want to do is resize it. So I'm going to go all the way to properties, and I want to click this little lock icon next to size, and we're just going to increase it by dragging to the right. So it's at 4 centimeters right now. We want to go way bigger than that. So I'm just kind of figuring out how big I want this to be, and then we could drag that down onto our plane. So as you can see, our plane is where these little squares are, right? This is our plane level, and obviously it's not entirely correct yet, but I'm going to show you a way to fix that in a second. So kind of just position it where you think it might need to sit. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to create an environment light for our scene, right? We want to make sure that our object, which is our poly lighthouse here, matches our scene. So in order to match our scene, we want to click on environment, and we want to go under actions where it says match image and click on that. And what we're going to do is uncheck resize canvas to image aspect ratio because we want to keep our existing aspect ratio. And under create lights, we want to make sure it's on outdoor sunlight because that is what we have in the scene. And then we also want to check match camera perspective. That is extremely important. So go ahead and hit OK. And as you can see, it adjusts our plane, which is where our ground is, and it looks like it's actually sitting there now, and that's exactly what we wanted. So we are good to go here. So we can kind of figure out exactly where we want this lighthouse to sit. I think sitting maybe right here would be kind of cool, making it more in the foreground, and then we're going to have a ship in the background here. And if we don't like the positioning of this light, we can just go to environment light and we can change the intensity and the rotation. So you can really do a lot here. And if I go to environment, we can do the same thing. We can go global intensity and global rotation. So you can really adjust it how you want. So I'm actually going to add the shadow like right here. So it looks like the sun's going behind it. So it makes sense that the shadow is going to the left. Under sun is really important because you can change the cloudiness of the shadows. So how like dim the shadows are going to be. Basically, you're mimicking a cloudy day. And then the height is how high the sun is. And that's going to affect your shadows. And I kind of like it right there. And then we can also change the intensity if we wanted to. So I'm going to go up to like 170 right there. And you can also change the color of the sun, but I'm not going to do that. So as far as this goes, I'm pretty happy with the positioning. So let's go ahead and grab our second object, which is our boat. You're going to do the same thing, guys. You're going to drag that boat model into your scene, and it's going to look something like this. So now it's in our scene, and it should take on the same characteristics as our current object. And the reason why is because we adjusted the scene's lighting and perspective. So it should match the perspective perfectly. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to lock size and rescale it. So we have a boat now, right? And then what we can do is we can rotate it. So on this green axis, we can rotate it left and right. So I'm going to go about right there. We're going to send that back a little bit more. As you can see, the boat is hovering, and we don't want that. We want that on the ground. So the easiest way to do it, the fastest way to do it, is under actions. Just hit this little arrow with the rectangle, and this is going to move it to the ground really quickly, and we are done. It's simple as that. And we can keep rotating it how we want. I think I want to actually have this one sinking into the ground a little bit, looking like a shipwreck. So I'm going to tilt it and move it down. So it looks like it's actually kind of buried in the sand a little bit. Kind of like that. I think that looks pretty cool. So I like the way this looks, and obviously we're using low poly models for this example, but you can go download so many different objects online, different 3D models. Anyway, once we have all this done and we adjust the shadows how we want, we are actually ready to render it. So what we want to do is we want to go to the render tab, and under render, we want to name it something. So we can name it, I don't know, wreckage. And under quality, you can change that to whatever you want, but I like mine to be the highest quality possible, which is also a very slow render, which is fine with me. And then the next thing we want to do is make sure PSD is checked, because we are going to open it up in Photoshop and do some more adjusting. And then under Save To, I just have it on my desktop, so I'm going to hit render, and I will see you guys in a second once it's done rendering. Once your render is complete, you will see a PSD file on your desktop or wherever you saved your file. Once you click on that file, it will open it up in Photoshop, and this is what it is going to look like. And I think it looks pretty damn good. I mean, all the shadows are where they need to be, and it definitely looks like these objects belong in the scene. But I always like to take things a step further, because this looks good, but you could definitely make it look better. So what I want to do is actually do Command A. I'm trying to look at my keyboard here, and then Shift Command V and just paste it in place. And then what I will do is make this into a smart object, and I'll show you guys why in a second. So I'll make this into a smart object, and as soon as you make that into a smart object, you can start making adjustments to the colors. So I want to go up to Filter, Camera Raw Filter, and I'm going to make some subtle adjustments just to make this thing pop a little bit more. So we're going to up the contrast, and these are just quick adjustments, nothing too crazy. We could change the white balance. Obviously this is on a really sunny day, so I don't want to go too crazy with the cool tones. I'll go a little bit higher with the clarity, maybe just like 4 is fine. And then we can adjust the saturation levels. I think I'm going to desaturate it just a little bit, so maybe -3. And then from here, I want to go to my individual hue and saturation adjustments. I'm going to go to hue and change the yellows to more of a red color. And then I want to go to the blue and make the blue a little bit more teal. So we're kind of doing this orange and teal type look. And then maybe even change the tone of those reds so they're a little bit more red. I think it's too saturated now, so I'm just going to lower that saturation down. I think that looks pretty good. So we're muting those saturation levels just a little bit more. And then from here we can add some split toning. So maybe I'll add some teal into the highlights and then some orangish colors into the shadows. Something like this. And then I'll change the balance a little bit. And then I want to fade out the blacks with a curve adjustment real quick. And if you guys are interested in like an in-depth tutorial on this step, I will make a video on that if you want. because this is definitely like, it deserves its own video. Let's just put it that way. And that is our final, basically. So if we do before and after, you can see the huge difference. This is basically my workflow, guys. I started in Adobe Dimension CC and I finished off with Photoshop. And if we wanted to, again, we could do so much more, but this is just scratching the surface. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial and I hope you guys learned something. If you guys did learn something, let me know in the comment section below. And if you guys want to see more in-depth tutorials on Adobe Dimension CC, also let me know in the comment section below. My name is CharleyPangus. Keep creating, keep being awesome. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.